Imagine for a moment that everything you feel deep inside, your doubts, your fears, your unspoken desires, are not weaknesses, but keys, clues left along your path, waiting for you to take the time to observe and understand them. In our society, we have learned to mask our flaws. From childhood, we are taught that we must be strong, confident, and in control at all times. But at what cost? By constantly suppressing our emotions, we have built walls between ourselves and our true nature. And yet, what we hide, the parts of ourselves we judge as imperfect, fragile, or unacceptable, holds immeasurable value. They are the gateway to a deeper understanding of who we truly are. Emotional triggers, disguised messengers. Have you ever noticed how certain situations, words, or behaviors from others deeply affect you? A comment, a glance, an attitude, and suddenly a wave of emotion rises within you. Maybe anger, maybe sadness, maybe a sense of injustice or abandonment. Why do you react this way? Why does this specific moment trigger such a strong emotion in you? Why, out of thousands of daily interactions, do some hit you straight in the heart while others leave you indifferent? It's not random. These reactions are not mere coincidences. They are messengers. They reveal a part of you that you may have forgotten, suppressed, or set aside. Let's take a simple example. You're with a friend, and they don't reply to your message as quickly as you would have liked. A feeling starts to rise in you. Maybe frustration, disappointment, or even a sense of rejection. But on the surface, it's just a message, a small delay, an insignificant detail. So why such a reaction? Why does this seemingly trivial event trigger something so deep within you? Because it touches a sensitive spot. Behind that frustration might be an old wound, a childhood memory of not feeling heard, of not feeling important enough. Maybe this delay echoes an unconscious fear, the fear of being left out, forgotten, insignificant in the eyes of others. And what if this were true for all the intense emotions we feel? Carl Jung called this the shadow, the unconscious part of our personality, made up of everything we have rejected or ignored over time. Our fears, our insecurities, our unspoken desires, our childhood wounds, everything we have deemed unacceptable. We think we grow, that we turn the page on our past, but in reality, nothing disappears. What we have repressed does not vanish. It stays there, in the shadows, waiting for life to bring it back to the surface. A careless comment from a colleague, a critique of our work, an innocent remark from a loved one. And suddenly, we are overwhelmed by emotions we don't understand. We sometimes react disproportionately without knowing why. Because in reality, it's not the present situation that causes this reaction. It's an echo of the past. The real question is, how will we respond? What if, instead of running, we learn to listen? Most of the time, we try to avoid discomfort. We push away unpleasant emotions. We distract ourselves. We rationalize. We tell ourselves, it's not a big deal. We try to think about something else, to move on. We drown ourselves in work, screens, social outings, and daily obligations. But this avoidance comes at a cost. By refusing to acknowledge certain truths about ourselves, we miss out on a precious opportunity, the opportunity to grow. Imagine for a moment that, instead of pushing these emotions away, you welcome them, that you gave them space to express themselves, that you saw them not as enemies to fight, but as guides showing you the way. What would happen if, instead of seeing your fears as weaknesses, you viewed them as signals? What would happen if, Instead of judging yourself for your doubts, you accepted them as an invitation to explore a new part of yourself. This process is not easy. It requires courage. It requires honesty with yourself. But it also opens the door to profound transformation. Because behind every emotional trigger lies a truth about yourself. A truth you have long avoided, but that, once brought to light, can set you free. So next time you feel a strong emotion in response to an everyday situation, don't immediately push it away. Don't try to escape it. Instead, ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? What wound or deep need is hidden behind this reaction? Because by paying attention, by truly listening to what your emotions have to reveal, you begin to transform your shadow into light, from confrontation to liberation. When we accept the challenge of exploring our emotions and wounds, we stop being their prisoners. We break free from the same patterns, the same vicious cycles, the same automatic reactions that keep us trapped in a reality that no longer serves us. We are no longer at the mercy of our fears, our insecurities, or our unhealed wounds. We cease to be reactive beings, dominated by external circumstances. Instead, we begin to respond to the world with awareness and clarity. But this path is not always easy. Facing ourselves requires courage. It is an invitation to look at ourselves in our entirety, to see what hurts, to acknowledge what we have denied for too long. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming our true whole selves. It requires integrating our shadow, stopping the endless flight from the parts of us we have deemed too weak, too shameful, too unsettling. We grew up with the idea that we must always be strong, always be positive, always hide our doubts and sorrows behind a mask of control. But true strength is not about being invincible or perfect. True strength is daring to be whole. It is daring to look within and say, "This is who I am, with my strengths and my flaws, my successes and my wounds, with my light and my shadow." And that is more than enough. Because in reality, there is nothing to fix, nothing to hide, nothing to erase. Everything we are deserves to be embraced. We have spent much of our lives avoiding certain truths, suppressing certain emotions, trying to become an idealized version of ourselves. But what if we simply allowed ourselves to be? What if we let ourselves feel fully, without judgment, without self-condemnation? When we allow ourselves to be authentic, something powerful happens. We discover that our wounds are not weaknesses, but gateways to profound transformation. We realize that our fears are not barriers, but invitations to grow. We understand that our doubts are not mistakes, but guides leading us toward deeper self-awareness. Each time we confront a fear, it loses its power over us. Each time we accept a part of ourselves we once rejected, we feel a little freer. Each time we choose to embrace what is instead of resisting it, we take one step closer to our true nature. A step toward inner freedom. So today, ask yourself, what part of myself am I afraid to explore? What aspect of my being have I long rejected or ignored? And what would happen if just this once I chose to face it with kindness? There is no battle to fight, no enemy to defeat, because the greatest freedom is often hidden in what we fear the most. And the peace we have been searching for elsewhere